Recently, I've been watching the original 2013 Titans, and I did just finish up season 1, 2, and 3, and now I'm on season 4. And specifically, I want to talk about the later half of season 1 and 2. And this is where things kind of get really heavy really quick. And to be honest with you, I want to talk about two characters that really define the series overall, which one of them is the protagonist and one of them is the antagonist for most of the series leading up until season 4. So, let's go ahead and check out this. Robin's dynamic is by far the most interesting example of what conflict can do to you. And their dynamic is particularly interesting, and it's really something that most people look over. And there's two things that make it so interesting. One is a psychological factor. Now, when it comes to Robin obsesses over Slade quite a lot. And you can tell it's obvious from the episodes that he wants to get Slade off his back and wants to, get Slade to stop doing these bad things. And while that is happening, Slade is admiring Robin from a distance, which Robin will admit, by the way, that he has mutual respect for Slade. And Robin is easily tricked by Slade and his manipulative tricks. And of course, the worst of all is that he gets beat up by Slade in the Haunted episode back in season 3, which, I'll be honest, was one of the darkest episodes for Teen Titans at the time. And Slade truly broke him, truly made him feel to question himself about his obsession with Slade and what he does. It's really sad, by the way, to how Robin kind of takes himself apart because of the hallucination, even though Slade is not really there, just in his mind. And it's really something that really just kind of disturbs in a sense as well. Even then, it's a mentor and student relationship, I would say, by the way, because he sees Robin as second in command, which, I'll be honest, is successor. And of course, they have the same fighting styles, they have the same motivations as one another, even though their motivations are really different in one way. But still, though, it's really something that we overlook, and I think is really perfect of what their dynamic really is, essentially. And I think it's interesting when you look at it from a broad. Robin and Slade are very similar skilled when it comes to combat, given their physical appearance. But Robin and Slade have really different fighting styles when it comes to going at one another. Robin tends to take more of the offensive side, which that in and of itself is really good, but there is one downside to it. He really doesn't use his defense much and really tends to go for Slade most of the time without having a plan. He just goes in and tries to attack him whenever he's vulnerable. But that's kind of the biggest disadvantage. Other than that, he really uses his gadget to its advantage. But of course, Slade does have the upper hand. And Slade uses his defense tactics a lot more and is better at taking down Robin when it comes to that. And of course, he uses technology and gadgets whenever he goes, and of course, his physical prowess to go ahead and do the stuff that he's meant to do. And he's just a very dangerous foe that doesn't mess around at all. That really doesn't. And honestly, it's really interesting. Robin and Slade, I think are really just interesting to say the least. And it's not just because of their dynamic or their fighting, but overall they're just really interesting characters, both of them. And from their interactions with each other to their mostly fights that they do, and just everything about them is really something that intrigues me. And ever since I watched this series, I want to see more. And you know Robin and Slade are two sides of the same coin, but very different. And you know their interactions, their ways of dealing with each other, it's interesting. And I believe other villains don't really show that, and neither do the other Titans. But I'm not here to, flack on the Titans or flack on the villains. That's just my opinion. And you know, the villains in Titans here in this series are really good. They really are. And just Slade and Robin's dynamic is probably by far the most unique I've probably seen in the TV show in a while. And I'm just astonished by what the writers could have come up with from just these two alone. And how they presented them in such a a fantastic way to where I want to go ahead and see more and make sure that the story is developed. And I think it's one of those pivotal parts that made the series what it is, starting from episode 12 and episode 13, episode 11 and 12, Apprentice Part 1 and Apprentice Part 2.